Have you ever looked around and felt like you're living in a world that moves too fast and thinks too little? If you've ever been the one to pause and ask why when everyone else just says okay, you've likely felt the weight of being misunderstood. This isn't new. This isn't strange. It's something most deep thinkers encounter and quietly carry. But why? Why does the one who seeks meaning so often feel alone? Let's explore that together. Throughout history, thinkers have stood on the edge of society not because they didn't belong, but because they saw too clearly. They didn't fit the mold. From Confucius to Kierkegaard, Simone Weil to David Foster Wallace, those who asked the deepest questions often found themselves furthest from the crowd. But this isn't because they were arrogant or strange. It's because they refused to settle for answers that only looked good on the surface. Modern society celebrates efficiency, speed, pleasant distractions, but deep thinking, that takes time. That takes discomfort. That demands we look beneath what feels good and ask what's actually true. And truth has never been the most popular guest at the dinner table. Psychologists today are discovering what ancient minds always suspected. Thinking deeply often means feeling deeply, too. The more aware you are of reality, its pain, its contradictions, its fragile illusions, the harder it is to engage in small talk, scroll mindlessly, or accept easy narratives. You can't unsee what you've seen, and you can't unknow what you've begun to understand. This brings us to something called cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when the truth you feel clashes with the world you're told to accept. Most people resolve this tension by choosing comfort, by silencing the questions, by drowning the dissonance in noise. But deep thinkers, they lean into the discomfort. And that makes them different, not better, just different. But here's the strange twist. Society rarely celebrates difference unless it can be packaged, marketed, or explained in 15 seconds. And deep thinking, it doesn't fit the algorithm. It doesn't trend. It doesn't entertain. It doesn't care about fitting in. It simply is relentless, slow burning, often inconvenient truth seeking. Let's get honest. Have you ever tried to talk about something real, something raw, and noticed the room go quiet? Have you ever brought up death, meaning, or the fragility of time, only to be met with jokes, silence, or a quick topic change? It's not your fault. You're not too much. You're simply reminding people of something they've spent their lives trying to forget. Because let's face it, it's easier to laugh than to reflect. It's easier to scroll than to sit still. It's easier to react than to question. And this isn't because people are shallow. It's because they're afraid. Afraid that if they think too much, they'll feel too much. Afraid that if they look too closely, they'll see what they've been avoiding. There's something called social mirroring in human psychology. We tend to reflect what's around us. Smile when others smile. Believe what others believe. Suppress what the group ignores. Deep thinkers disrupt that mirror, not with loudness, but with presence, with a quiet clarity that unsettles, with a gaze that says, I see the cracks you're trying to paint over. And that gaze, it can be uncomfortable to those still clinging to illusions. Now here's the hard part. The deeper your awareness, the lonelier your road might feel. Not because people hate truth, but because they fear what truth will ask them to change. You might find that the more you understand, the more you're met with resistance, or even resentment. But remember, you're not alone. There are others quiet, thoughtful, unseen, walking the same road. You won't always find them in crowds. Sometimes you'll meet them in books, or in silences that feel like home, or in conversations that finally feel real. So what can a deep thinker do in a shallow world? Here are a few truths worth holding on to. Protect your solitude. It's not emptiness. It's space to listen to yourself, and to wisdom that whispers, not shouts. Don't rush your voice. Deep thoughts take time. Let your words ripen before you offer them. The world doesn't need louder thinkers. It needs truer ones. Choose your audience wisely. Not everyone is ready to hear what you've seen, and that's okay. Truth is not meant to be forced, it's meant to be discovered. There is beauty in being awake even if others are still dreaming. There is strength in staying conscious even when the world says, don't think so much. And there is honor in being the one who asks why when everyone else accepts just because. So if you've ever felt alone in your thoughts, if you've ever been called to intense, to quiet, to reflective, know this: you're not broken, you're not weird, you're not out of place, you're just one of the few still listening to the echoes.